Good morning, everyone. It took me a minute to get on this live because it's been a really long time since I've done an Instagram live. And I think the last time that I did, it was just like an option at the top. But I am live today because we're talking about the FamSummit, which is happening July 30th through August 1st. And one of our speakers, Tiny Talkers, is going to discuss with us a little bit about their talk. And then you will get to ask any questions you have about early speech and littles. And I'm going to add Tiny Talk. Stephanie from Tiny Talkers is joining us. And oh, if I can add her, like I said, I'm a little technologically not on it today. But let me see if I can view the request and it will let her join. Ah, yay!
Hi.
How are you, Stephanie? So I'm in California and you're in Chicago. Um, so a little bit of a time difference. So I'm really glad that we make this work. I have a lot of boxes behind me. As you can see, that's for all of our Summit goodie bags or boxes actually that are being shipped to everyone. And so later today at 11, I'm going through what's in those. But
Okay.
I'm excited about your talk at the Summit. Can
Thank
you
you.
hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Um,
So excited.
yes, I have. Well, my 2-year-old is currently in speech, and so I was like, "Oh, we need a speech pathologist." And I just love the information that you've been sharing on Instagram yesterday about just things we don't think about. Instead of just asking a question, "Oh, do you like your ice cream?" Thinking of ways that you're actually expanding their language because they're imitating you, like, "Oh, yummy chocolate ice cream," and so things like that. I think are just really useful tools. Um,
Thank you.
but so I'm wondering, how did you get into this work? And I mean, I have so many questions, but let's start there.
Yeah, well, thanks again for having us. We're so excited to speak at the FAM Summit. I'm part of Tiny Talkers. It's myself and another speech therapist, Becky. And Becky and I will both be speaking at the FAM Summit. And we're going to share a ton of information about specific speech strategies and information on if your little ones are late talkers and just ways you can get your little ones talking, even if they're typically developing, if you just want them to start saying more words or add some vocabulary to their language. So how we got started is I actually have my background in special education. So I started out working in that field and then realized I love the field of communication. I love being able to help little ones learn the tools to help communicate. And so I went on and got my master's in speech therapy, and I've been working in the field for over 10 years now. So I've worked in many different areas, but I specialize with the pediatric population 0 to 5. And last year, Becky and so I actually met Becky when I first started my first job out of grad school. Becky was pregnant with her first child, and she is 3 now, and her oldest is now 10. And she needed a maternity leave position. So I took her maternity leave position in the north suburbs of Chicago, and we met and became fast friends and just really love working together. So fast forward to last year when the pandemic started, we realized so many parents were reaching out to us just really lost, needing some resources. So many resources that were out there before were gone and everything went virtual. And so we thought, why don't we start an online community? We don't just offer resources, but we're kind of a big community. We love connecting with the followers that we have, and we offer consults, and we have a teacher that takes over every week and does fun crafts and activities for little ones. And then we just offer a lot of different tips and strategies on our feed to help parents get their little ones talking. So it's been really fun, and we've connected with so many professionals like yourself. So it's just been a really fun journey over the past year.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I love, the idea of giving parents just little simple tools, like one at a time, because
Yeah.
when you are trying to look into this stuff, it's overwhelming. And, there's Dr. Google, and there's all
Of
the parents,
course.
like if you go into the Facebook groups, and everyone has different
Yeah,
things. And this is just, it's a really overwhelming period for a parent.
absolutely.
So much changes from day to day between 0 and age 5. And so during the summit, you're going to be talking a little bit about, maybe some early sounds that parents should be aware of, um, when they may need to look into early
Mhm.
intervention. Can you talk a little bit about that and like what it means?
Of
Uh,
course.
what is an early intervention? What age would they know?
Sure. So we always let parents know that every child, of course, develops at their own rate and time. So when we talk about milestones, it can be a little overwhelming and scary to parents because they're like, well, my child's not meeting this milestone or that one. And this child's, the same age as mine. And that child's so much more advanced. Are they typical? Do they need intervention? So it's definitely can be overwhelming. So our goal is to make all the information we provide very simple, easy to understand. We know that parenting, as Becky and I both have 3 children of our own, so we know parenting can be very overwhelming. There's a lot of different areas. So we just wanted to make communication area simple for parents to understand and simple tips and strategies to get their little ones developing. So in terms of milestones, there are specific milestones that we look for each age. And we actually offer some milestone checklists on our website, tinytalkerschicago.com, and on our feed. You can find them on our links as well. And the reason why milestones are helpful is because it just gives us a general guide to see where we want to see little ones. We always say that milestones are like stepping stones. So these are stepping stones that little ones need to have in order to build upon and gain new skills. So, for example, if your little one's not meeting a certain sound or a certain number of words we want to see, then they're going to have difficulties meeting the next skill or the next
Mm,
milestone. And a lot of times, we always want to remind parents that milestones, the way your children are meeting milestones, just every child's different. And just because a child might not be meeting milestones for their age, it doesn't have anything to do with what the parents are doing. Their parents aren't doing anything wrong. It's just certain children might not be developing skills. Maybe they're really focused on motor skills. Maybe your little one is walking at an early age and a late talker. So we always say that there's so many skills that are developing quickly in little ones as they're growing. And that's just why it's important to be watching out for these milestones, though. So if you're finding that your little one is meeting most of the milestones, maybe there's just 1 or 2 they haven't met yet, then they're on the right track. But if you're finding your little one is, not meeting a lot of the milestones that we list for that age, then that's when we recommend reaching out to your pediatrician or to a speech therapist. Because again, these skills build upon each other. So it's so important for them to meet these building blocks. And that way, if they're not, then they can get early intervention. And early intervention, can sound very scary. And I understand. I actually had my son go through physical therapy because he was walking at a later age. And so it can be very overwhelming if you're not familiar with early intervention or therapy services. But really, once you kind of get into it, you realize that it's just people trying to help build up your little one's skills. And oftentimes, little ones just need boosts.
yeah.
And they just need to give parents some strategies, give your little one some extra tools, and then they're off and running. But the reason why we say early intervention is so important too is because we often talk about how other parents or family members or friends might be like, oh, my son was a late talker, he caught up, or
Mm.
this child is it's a boy, so they're later talkers, and we talk about that a lot on our feed a lot. And well, yes, there's a lot of these anecdotal stories. It's really important, though, to get those services early because research actually shows that a large percentage of late talkers do not catch up on their own. And, we
Wow.
don't want to scare families, but we just want to let them know that some kids just need the services to help catch them up to where they need to be. And so, we really don't recommend the wait and see approach. There's no harm in ever reaching out to your pediatrician or a speech therapist. And we always are available on our community. You can always send us messages if you're curious, if your little one's meeting milestones for their age. And we're just here to help, parents navigate all that.
And I think you kind of need to be an advocate sometimes too, because that wait and see method, I feel like sometimes depending on your pediatrician, they might be like the same thing. I've gotten that myself from a pediatrician, like, oh, he's a boy, you
Right.
know, or oh, they're great in these other areas. So it could be just, like this relative, like you said, who waited till they were 5. It's like, well, my mom gut's telling me something else. So you
Exactly.
push like, and even though, like you said, early intervention sounds scary, I think if you have a fantastic speech therapist you're working with,
Hmm.
it, it's amazing the stuff you learn. You're like, oh, we're just so inside our own heads and going through the day to day.
Right.
It's the things like the example you shared in your Instagram post yesterday about how to, instead of just go, oh, do you like your ice cream?
Hmm.
You know, more descriptive and give them the language. I realized with my 2-year-old that I was saying, oh, do you want this or this? And I was calling everything this. And I was wondering why she didn't have words. And I'm like, oh, I'm not giving her the actual language. I'm not telling her what this is called. That's why she's not saying, I want orange juice or, whatever. Um, so I think it's so helpful for us as parents to just like, oh, these are really great tools. And I can use this with all of my kids, rather than thinking of it as like, oh, I'm a failure. It's just like, wow, I wish every parent got these tips and tools, like we had a little packet, baby's born and okay,
I
here,
know.
there's
Babies
just
do not come with manuals.
so much information. There's so much going on, which is why I am so excited that we have all these awesome speakers speaking about all these different areas.
Amazing.
Like you said, they could be working on walking. And so they're really focused on that. And
Right.
we're like, we're already walking. We don't think of that as like a milestone that requires so much brain energy
Hmm.
and all these changes that are going on with them. We have to actually step back and be like, oh, that's right. That's what's going on.
So many
Um,
skills developing in little ones.
yeah, it's amazing. And so I'm really excited about your talk. And I wanted to leave room for if anyone has any questions. I know someone messaged me a question that I'll ask you if we have time, but I want to make sure that we answer any questions that come
Yeah.
in live. So if you
Yeah.
have a question for Stephanie, just put it in the comments right now and I'll ask her.
Yeah, there's also a lot that parents can do at home. So, while parents, if they are waiting for early intervention, or even if you're, you don't feel like your little one needs intervention, but you're just looking for some extra tips, there's so many ways that you can encourage these verbal skills at home with your little ones. And so when we talk about these skills, there's 2 different parts to it. So there's the receptive language, and then there's the expressive language. So the receptive language is how little ones understand language. So this is their ability to follow directions and point to body parts. So sometimes we like to explain the basics of how there's 2 different parts that are really important to language, and they work together, but they are 2 separate parts. So little ones may have a delay in one area, not the other. And little ones typically understand way more than they can express as they're developing. And so that's why little ones can get really frustrated easily, because they don't have the words to explain to you or to communicate what they're trying to say or what they want. And so one of the things we suggest as they're developing skills is really to try to keep it simple. So like you were talking about, modeling the words is great. So modeling the language, if your little ones aren't saying words yet, try to model it at the 1 word level. So as you go through your day, just label the words and repeat the words frequently to them. As during mealtime, you can say banana, banana, here's a banana. So you really want to keep it simple. And then as your little one starts saying single words and you're working on the 2-word level, then you can start putting 2 and 3 words together for them. So you can be like, oh, mama eat banana. So really keeping it simple helps them learn those words quickly. And always talking to them throughout the day, having conversations with them, describing what you see, is really important to help get your little ones talking.
Yeah, that's a great advice. And even something that people don't think about is from birth, you can just be talking to them and make sure you make eye contact, because I think we tend to think of, oh, they're a baby, they're not doing things, we just kind of hold them. And then, you're looking at your phone or talking to other people and they're watching you, but it's not the same as an
Right.
exchange. And so that's something I've learned more recently, that learning language really is, it has to be an exchange. So you have to be actually looking at them and making eye contact, not them just seeing you talk to other people. And it's completely different.
Absolutely. Absolutely. On our blog, we often talk about pre-language skills. And these are all the skills like you talked about, eye contact. It also involves imitation, turn taking, gestures. These are all the skills that babies need to have in order to build their first words. So these skills they're beginning to develop right from birth. That eye contact, those coos that they're imitating, those are all really important skills. They're the building blocks that are really necessary for little ones to start having verbal skills. So we really, if little ones aren't saying their first words yet, we always go back and we say, well, are they doing these pre-language skills? Are they doing little turn-taking games with you? Are they doing any gestures? So these are really important skills that we want to see little ones having before they can even begin saying their first words.
That's awesome. And then, so I don't see any questions yet, so I'm just going to do the question that was sent to me. If someone has a 2-year-old with a lisp,
Mm-hmm.
would you recommend that they start? This is kind of goes towards that wait and see comment that you made earlier. Would you recommend that they start speech therapy services, get checked out, or do you think, oh, the lisp will go away as they get older and it'll be fine? Oh,
Yeah. You got little ones. We all have the little ones at home, right?
no, well, yeah. And my mom was supposed to come out and watch them, and you know how things go. So
It is so tough. I honestly, I give all parents, whether you're working or not, so much credit because working during this pandemic has been really interesting. So,
it
um,
it it's always been like this for me. So it's kind of been like, oh, now the rest of you are experiencing my reality is
yeah,
working at home, But yes, it has been.
exactly. So that's a great question about the lisp. So a lisp is when a child is incorrectly producing the S and Z sound because typically their tongue's sticking out between their front teeth, so it'll sound like soup instead of soup. So it can be for a few different reasons of why. There's another lisp where they're kind of making a little slushy sound like soup. Um, so, we always recommend if you have any concerns, reaching out to a speech therapist. Typically, if they're making that sound, that like slushy kind of almost call it like Donald Duck sound, that
Mhm.
is not a typically developing error that we want to hear in little ones that little ones will not outgrow. So if you ever hear that error, then we would recommend reaching out to a speech therapist, really at any age. Um, with a lisp, a lot of children will have that a little bit growing up and typically outgrow it. But again, we kind of look at children as a whole, right? So we're not going to look at one specific error. So we kind of want to make sure that your little one is being understood generally at the milestones. So, you want to make sure that you can understand by 4 years. We typically want to be able to understand everything a little one is saying. And so, at 2 years, we really only understand about half of what they're saying. And that's very typical. And there's also different patterns that little ones will use as they're talking to help make it easier for them to say words. So some of these patterns are typical and some of them are atypical. And we have a whole list of them on our website as well. So you can check that out if you have specific questions about it. And again, you can always send us a message if you want us to go into detail about your little one's specific needs.
Sounds awesome. Okay, I will send them your link and
Perfect.
resources about that.
Yeah.
No other questions. I think we pretty much covered everything. I wanted
Great.
to know why you started Tiny Talkers, go into a little bit about what you're going to be speaking on at the FamSummit on day 2 at
Yeah.
10:30 Standard Time. And that is, again, this is Stephanie from Tiny Talkers for those of you who just joined. And she's speaking on day 2 at the FamSummit about early intervention, early speech language, what sounds and different things to look out for with her business partner, Becky. She will also be speaking. And yeah, we're just excited to
Yeah.
see your talk. Thank you so much for taking out the time to talk with us. beforehand so we could get a little bit of a preview. Um,
Yeah, thank you for having us. We're so excited to be speaking at the FAM Summit with so many other incredible professionals.
yes. Well, thank you so much,
All
and
right.
we'll see you in July.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, everyone. At 11 a.m., I am doing another live where I'm showing you what's in all these boxes. I'm going through what is in the Fam Summit VIP goodie bags, or boxes rather, that I'm shipping out to everyone. And we're doing several different giveaways. And I'm also talking about the giveaways that are happening at the actual summit. So I'm going to turn this live off for a little bit, come back at 11, and hopefully I'll see you all then. If I can figure out how to end this because I have not done a live in forever.